Hi everybody, welcome to Kelinting Reads, where we talk about books in the horror genre, or at least horror adjacent. My name is Dimas and I am your host. Today I'm going to review this book, Later by Stephen King. Now, before we begin, I have a confession to make. I know that most horror fans would agree that the name Stephen King is synonymous with horror. And based on the movies adapted from his stories, a number of them have become classics in the genre, and some of the images from those movies have lodged itself in my brain. The image from the movie Carrie and the music from The Shining, for instance, give me the creeps whenever I see or hear them. With that being said, I did not grow up with Stephen King's books. I only have read just a number of them, namely It, The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, Cell, and Revival. As for the rest of Stephen King's stories, I was more familiar with the movie adaptations like Carrie, The Shining, Cujo, Misery, Christine, Pet Sematary, and so on. Now, the interesting thing that I picked on after reading a number of Stephen King's books is that actually, I think he cares more about the characters rather than just plain scares. Most of the times when I read his books, it is not the scares that shine through, but his empathy and the tender moments between his characters. Quite often, I got touched and emotional reading his books, maybe because deep down, I'm also just a crybaby. But still, not many authors can do that within the realm of horror fiction, so I enjoyed that side of his writing a lot. Now, when I saw that he has a new book out called Later with this cool-looking cover, look at that cover, and an intriguing tagline, I was immediately interested. From the synopsis, I understand that this is a crime novel with a supernatural bent, which I have never read before. I know I have so much to catch up on. So I bought the book and I read it. What do I think of it? Well, here is my review. Later by Stephen King mainly takes place in the year 2008 and beyond, and it is about Jamie, a 9-year-old kid who can see ghosts, and all the adventures and complications that it brings, and how all of these experiences shaped his view on life. At the start of the story, he lived with his mother, a successful literary agent in the swanky apartment on Park Avenue. It is during their time there that Jamie first learned that he not only can see ghosts, but also talk to them. He quickly learned that these ghosts that he's seeing operate under certain rules. Number one, these ghosts always hang around for a few days after their death, around the location where they died, before then disappeared to the afterlife. Number two, the ghosts always reflect the condition that they died in. Number three, they have to answer any time they are asked, and they have to answer honestly. Now, at first, when he first encountered these ghostly sightings, Jamie was terrified since what he saw was the ghost that came out of an accident scene. However, he soon found out that most of them actually looked like living people, and they are not there to haunt him. They just stayed here for several days after their death before moving on to the great beyond. In the beginning, the only people that knew about Jamie's ability was his mom and his mom's girlfriend, Liz, who was an NYPD detective. Now, the story got more interesting when Jamie started using his gifts to help his mom's girlfriend, and other tenants in the apartment building that he lived in. From finding a missing wedding ring, solving crimes, to getting lost information from the dead. This part of the story was really exciting, and to me, it was like watching a buddy movie or a police procedural movie with basically the kid from The Sixth Sense. However, the more Jamie used his gifts, the more his gifts were exposed. Now, his mom always reminded Jamie not to talk about his ability openly to other people because it might attract people with bad intentions. And as you are about to find out as the story progresses, she is correct. The fun, police procedural aspect and buddy movie tone slowly morphed into a suspenseful tale of, to me, the loss of innocence in the hands of greedy and desperate adults. This book really reminds me about the sucky part of growing up, which is realizing that 1. Life, of course, is not all sunshine and rainbows. 2. Our life itself is a borrowed time. 3. Adults who are supposed to protect kids, sometimes in their desperation, would use and harm kids or anyone who cannot defend themselves for their personal gain. But this book also has some sweet aspects to it. I love how Jamie and his mom operate as a team. His mom always listens to his son and believes in everything that Jamie has to say. Now, many horror stories have the parent character dismissing their kids' fears and observations, making the kids feel unheard and very angry and angsty, but that is not the case here. Jamie, to me, is a kid who very quickly embraced his gifts. This is due in no small parts to the trust and respect that his mom gave him, and I find it so beautiful and refreshing. In addition to that, there are also many scenes that touch my heart. For instance, there is this scene in the book where a ghost is saying goodbye to a loved one who's still alive, and this ghost plants a kiss on their cheek, and that living person who cannot see the ghost immediately rubs their cheek because they feel that kiss. I mean, seriously, Stephen King may be branded as a horror writer, but time and time again, I am more convinced that he just writes human stories with a sprinkle of supernatural aspects in them. So I don't find the book to be scary, and maybe it is not meant to be scary. It has some creepy parts in it, involving ghosts and stuff, sure, but what takes center stage here is Jamie's coming of age from a little kid to a young adult, and how he navigates himself through people who some can be loving and supportive, but can also be corrupt and are willing to bleed you dry to get what they want. One little thing that bugs me a little bit in the story is that there is a last-minute reveal in the book that makes Jamie's circumstances feels a bit sad and tragic. The problem is, for me, number one, the reveal feels like it came out a little too late. Plus, I don't think it adds anything to the character's growth other than adding, like I said, a sad and tragic aftertaste. All in all, this is a very enjoyable, thrilling, and heartfelt book by Stephen King, and I'm giving it a 4 out of 5 stars. I definitely will try to read as many titles as possible in his catalog, or at least the ones that are considered to be must-read by Stephen King's fans. I mean, who knows, maybe I could find some things of his work that are really scary. But even if they are not scary, I have a feeling that I would always enjoy his prose, the way he develops characters, and those human aspects that I feel he excels at. So that is my review of Later by Stephen King. If you have read it, let me know what you think of it in the comment section down below. Or if you have any recommendation of a Stephen King's book that you think is really scary that I should check out, please let me know. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you again in the next book review video.